Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Robot Spirit or Robot Damashii Shenlong Gundam, one of my favorite Gundams from the Wings series. No number for this guy because he is one of the Bandai Collector Shop exclusives. No window on the box. Still kind of cool even though it's the monochromatic packaging. Fairly simple compared to the standard Tamashii Nations Robot Damashii packaging. Who cares that much about the package anyway? Let's look at the figure. That's what you came for. This guy is bulky. This guy has jagged edges. He has curvy lines. He has just about everything you could want in a Gundam, so that's why he's one of my favorites. He actually has a little bit more weight to him than most of your stand-up Gundams. And he's in the red, white, and blue color design, which I particularly like, not because it's patriotic, but mostly because it harkens back to the more traditional looking Gundams, but still has a nice bit of flair. He stands just under 5.5 inches tall, so standard size, nothing to write home about there, but he is pretty cool and he has some unique features. Before we get into the articulation, I would like to point out that he does have the extending arm that has the dragon thing on the end here. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the articulation, but I just want to point that out. And there's something else to mention once we get to the accessories, but for now we will just go ahead and pop that back in there and leave it as just a standard arm. So as you can see, this guy's molded in quite a few different colors. There's really nice composition to this figure, and the painted parts are done fairly well. The yellow lining throughout is fairly clean. The gold bits, no real problems there. The green, everything is done very nicely. The circles are nice and round. No issues at all. He's a little bit dusty from his prior owner. I didn't notice that before. I'll have to give him a good cleaning, but you can tell that the molded parts are nice and clean, very well done, and the painted parts match just fine. So no problems there. As far as the articulation goes, the head, while it is going to be a little bit more limited due to the sculpt, the head is on a ball peg. Maybe you can see in there under the neck, under the chin, that is. Pretty decent though. It does have the ball peg, so you have the full swivel. You can look up a bit, look down a bit, and then we have the neck, which you actually get this whole collar piece that moves, and that provides for a little bit better range of motion, but this extra spike in the back of his helmet does get in the way of looking up too much. He can look up pretty well though. It's not horrible, so I'm okay with that, and he can look down just fine. So I'm gonna say I'm pretty happy with his range of motion for his neck. It could be better, but the sculpt just gets in the way sometimes. V-fin, not soft. Be careful about that. You do not want to break that piece off. As for the shoulders, we have a ball hinge in here, and then this hinge the ball peg, I'm sorry. We have a ball peg, and then there's a hinge socket underneath there. So that gives him a little bit better range of motion, and then the ball peg has pretty good range of motion on top of that. The shoulder pad is hinged independently. You can see that hinge right there, that little gray part there gives you the hinge for the shoulder pad, and then that silver rivety thing in there gives you the hinge for the actual shoulder, so that's pretty good. We have a bicep swivel right here. No extra play in the arms like the Death Scythe Gundam, or Gundam Death Scythe, so it's basically just a bicep swivel, and I'm okay with that. We really don't need that extra ball peg in there. We do have a double hinged elbow, which gives him really good range of motion. Doesn't look too bad either, if I do say so myself. And then we have the single ball peg for the wrist. He does not feature the double ball peg like some of the other Gundams. Then we have the shield connected to a ball peg right there. So that's pretty nice. It does move around. I'm not sure if it pops off. Let's go ahead and take a look. I mean, I know the shield pops off, but I'm not sure about the thing that connects to it. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that stays on there permanently. So the shield does come off if you want it to, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, so I'm going to set that aside. Looks like this is a permanent piece though. As for the torso articulation, we have an ab crunch where this tucks into the chest rather than the other way around. It doesn't have the greatest range of motion, but it looks alright, so I'm not going to complain. No lateral rocking in the upper torso. Lower torso does have the forward and back and the side to side. Not as much as we've seen in some other figures, but it is there, so I can't complain too much. And we have a really nice waist swivel. We talked about this arm. This arm is exactly the same from the shoulder down. We still have the bicep swivel and the elbows and everything. We just have this extending hinged upper arm. So all you get is extra hinges, and then that just collapses up into itself like this, if I can do it on camera. And so you still get pretty good standard articulation out of that arm. It's just you have to be aware of those hinges when you're posing him, because they do tend to pull out sometimes. It's not quite as well designed as the other one. As you can see, we have a little tiny peg in there, and then a little tiny peg hole right here, and that's supposed to keep it in place. It doesn't work quite as well as the one on Ultron Gundam. It's not horrible though, and I'm glad they did include that little peg, because it does help. Okay, so we have the skirt armor, which is hinged, ball hinged, or ball pegged, I suppose I should say, as you would expect. And then we have the side skirt pieces, pretty limiting, but we'll see if they actually get in the way. And then we have the butt flap, which is fixed. Hips are standard ball pegs with a thigh swivel. Let's see, they do get limited by the side skirts on the side. They do get limited actually in the front as well. So that means the hips give you full range of motion, but the skirts do limit it a little bit. Not too bad though, we still get some pretty decent posability out of them. Full 360 on the thigh, double jointed knees, not too bad. We have this nice little white part that pops out to fill it in a little bit, so that looks pretty good. And we have a pretty good range of motion. For the ankles, we have the hinged. Is it hinged? I don't know. Let's see. Doesn't seem to be hinged. It looks like it's just the ball peg for the ankle armor. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to move, so just the standard ball peg, so it's pretty limiting right there. We'll see how it goes though. Toe can pull all the way down. That gives us a good peek inside at that ball peg right there. That gives us the swivel, a little bit of play back and forth and up and down. Toe doesn't go up very much at all, but it does come down. Then you can see that the ankle itself is hinged. Hopefully you can see in there, it's kind of shooting back that way. That's the hinge that lets the foot go like this, and at this end of that hinge is a ball peg that lets the foot play around on that. So we're not too limited, but we've definitely seen a little bit better ankle articulation in some of the other robot Damashii figures. Ankle articulation is something I'm a stickler for my standard like 6-inch or Marvel Legends, or even the more higher scale figures like the Play Arts Kai. With Gundams, I'm a little more lenient just because of the bulk of the ankles. There's only so much you can do when you have plates of plastic all over the place. So it's a little bit more limited, but I feel like they did probably as well as they could given the circumstances of the sculpt. We have these little thrusters back here. They are on ball pegs, so you can spin them around and angle them a little bit here and there. This piece back here spins, and that will show you what that's for right now. He comes with his big staff that's used to hold the, well, I'll show you the other pieces in a second. So anyway, this can just snap on back here, and then you can spin that around to put it however you want to, get those out of the way, but that's probably a good enough angle, so that's kind of nifty. And now what you can do with this when it's not on his back is you can connect this to it, so he can, it kind of looks like he's swinging it, but it also does have a curved blade. Oh, what is that called? The spears with the big flat curved blade, and they tend to have tassels on them. Maybe the tassels are only on the spears. Well, either way, it's a really cool looking weapon. They did a good job with this clear green or translucent green. It's molded well, really nice color to it. So we have this one, and then we have, well, let's see if I can get it out. Alright, so we have the big one and the little one. That's up to you what you use. They just pop in and pop out. No problem at all. And just to give you a size comparison, if you didn't quite catch it before, the staff is almost as tall as him. The blade goes up over his head. That is the small one. The large one is even taller, of course, and that goes way over his head. So that's pretty cool. We have an alternate hand for him, which gives him a much bigger dragon head, so to speak. I guess you could call it that. So it has bigger fangs, a bigger head, bigger just about everything, and no hand. So that's the thing to note about that. It just pops out right where it would look like it would, and they interchange. So this one has the bigger dragon head. They have the same articulation everywhere, so I'll show you on this big one. This part is hinged. These are both hinged. They can actually go in and out and up and down, and they have a really nice gold paint on them. And then this piece is hinged as well. So you can pose that fairly nicely however you really want to. It doesn't lift up too far up here. I think this one lifts up a little bit more. Yeah, this one goes all the way back. So that's really up to you. You can fold that back if you want to. and then fold this back if you want to just have him have more like a standard arm. So that's kind of nifty. And then we have two extensions actually for that extension of an arm that he has, and these will pop on. I'll better just show you on this. Makes it a little bit easier. You can disassemble the arm in various places and add these extension pieces in to make it even longer. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if I'd ever actually pose him with that, but you do have that option. Before we get to the hands, we have one last piece, and this is just to provide for the peg hole for the display stage. That goes right down here underneath his thruster, so that's pretty nifty. I've said nifty way too many times in this review. A lack of sleep will do that to you. So we have two fist hands, standard fist hands. We have two standard jazz hands. You guys might know this by now. Almost all of the robot Damashii figures come with the same set of hands, give or take a few, and I'll show you those few right now. So we have this one, which is unique. A really cool hand. I love that sculpt, and it actually goes on this way, so you can actually, instead of having the hand out like this, you can bring the hand up like that. That gives it a really nice look. And then we have this one, which is meant for holding the shield. So you can put the shield in his hand and peg that in, if I can do it on camera, and then he can hold it like Captain America, and that's really cool. You can get some really nice posing out of that. So that's awesome. And then the last two sets are standard thumbs up weapon holding hands and standard gripping weapon hands. Alright guys, that's it. I definitely recommend this guy. It is one of my favorite Gundams from the Wings series. This one is an exclusive, so it's a little bit harder to come by, and it's a little bit older, so you're going to need a little bit of luck and a little bit of patience when you're looking for him, but I definitely think it is worth looking for. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff, and in the meantime, keep collecting.